Welcome to episode 12 of Write-In Tom McMasters for Mayor. If Walmart had not been built, the property that it's on right now would be collecting about $10,468 in property tax. But since Walmart has been built on it, the total tax bill is $226,548.82. Okay, so goal of the city is to develop the land, because not only do you get this increase in property tax right here, I did a back of the envelope calculation and figured out that Walmart pays the city about $340,000 extra dollars in income tax as well. Okay, so the city wants to develop this land. Well, how do you make this happen? Well, the way the I-70 was previously, the ramps did not service that property very well. So the city said, if we improve the ramps off of I-70, somebody's going to want to come in and improve that property. Okay, so, or this property here, right? So if this was not a good intersection off of I-70, but once they made it better, Walmart decided that they would develop there. Okay, so how would you pay for the improvements? Well, we have this I-70 Montgomery TIF that was made, and you saw the slide at the beginning of what that looks like. Okay, and so what happens is that $215,000 of this $226,000 goes into a TIF fund, and part of that money can be used for developing the I-70 off ramps. All right, and then I went through and let you know that this came from the auditor's website and started to show you how I got these numbers. And if you go ahead and you take the first and second payments, you add them together, you get that. You add these things up, you get $215, and then you end up with this $10,468 number. That's how I decided that that was the undeveloped cost tax that was going to be in there. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's TIF or not as far as Walmart's property tax goes. They're going to pay the same $226,548.82, whether it was a TIF or not a TIF. All right. So Walmart doesn't get any benefit from being in the TIF itself, other than they have the I-70 exchange, because that's what's paying for the I-70 exchange. This is the big difference right here, though. How would that regular tax be distributed compared to how the TIF, how that tax is distributed under a TIF district? Okay, so here we go. And again, off of the auditor's website, I found the levy distribution. So these right here are the levies of that $10,468, which we calculated over here. Okay, so I could calculate how much money would go to each of these entities right here if I distribute this $215,000 the same way that this money is distributed. Here are some of the examples for how I did that. That's $215,000 is a TIF payment. This was 19%. Montgomery County got 19% of the funds. So of the $215,000, $40,000, almost $41,000 of the 215 would go to the county if there was no TIF. All right. So I did that for a couple of them, and you can see how that goes. And then I'm going to go ahead and make all these distributions, but there is a big simplifying statement that I know is not correct. Okay. But for this example, we're going to say that all of this 19% of the Montgomery County money is going to end up going to the city. All right. And all the ones in the greens are going to be the same way. Of the 215% or $215,000, that's all going to go to the city. Right. But of these purple ones, those are school funds, and we're going to say none of that goes to the city in the TIF distribution. Okay, so they're going to keep all their money in the TIFs that we've created right now. Again, it's a big simplification, but it is one that we're going to use because things will get complicated. All right, and if you do that, then you can tell that without a TIF, if there was no TIF in there, Montgomery County would end up getting $42,933. All right, that's the 1947 there, and the amount of the TIF that comes. You add them together, and that's how much money Montgomery County would get if there wasn't a TIF. But with a TIF, Montgomery County only gets the $1,900, and the city ends up getting the $40,000. All right, now for the schools, it doesn't matter because this is a non-school TIF at this time. All right. For Huber Heights, it doesn't matter because they're getting all their money back in the TIF. The reason it does matter, though, is that here, when it's collected as property tax, it all goes to fire or police. But once it's collected as property tax, or once it's collected in the TIF, now it can only be used for infrastructure. So you can't use it for police and fire operations. If you had a police and firehouse to build, then you can use it for that. But you can't use it for operation cost. So there is a little bit of a difference, but the amount of money you have from the levies is the same. Okay? And so the similar things with the library, they would get $11,000 if there was no TIF. They only get $472 if there is a TIF. The city gets the rest of it. All right, so calculated all those out, and so without a TIF, the city would just get $13,597, and it would all go to police and fire stuff. With a TIF, they end up getting $71,822, and all that money can be used to pay off the debt for making the I-70 interchange. Okay, so you have a lot more money here to work and get Walmart to come in. Okay, so here's the caveat right here, right? I had calculated $70-some thousand before if all this money goes to the TIF fund and then gets distributed to the city. Well, a lot of people didn't like the Home Human Services and the library funds and stuff to all go to the city. So in this TIF things, so some of these can be not going to the city. We know that this one that was from 1977 will go to the city, but at some point in time, I think it was like 2008 or 2012 or something, they decided that new levies would not go to the city. So I don't know how renewals go, and a lot of these end up being renewals, but new levies after a certain point in time for human services and library do not go to the city. So the amount that the city could be increasing might not be $71,000. It might only be like $30,000. So with a TIF, without a TIF, the city would get $13,000. With a TIF, it's somewhere between $30,000 and $72,000, probably. All right. So, questions. Can tax increment financing be a great tool for raising money? Well, absolutely, right? This Walmart example shows that it is. And not only that, like I mentioned before, the city not only gets that extra $71,000, if Walmart comes in there, Walmart employees pay income tax. And in another of my videos, I did a back of the envelope calculation and calculated that Walmart employees are currently paying somewhere around $340,000 in income taxes. All right. So the city definitely wants to develop that land to get a business to come into that land. But does that mean that everything about a TIF is great? Well, no, there are drawbacks, and you have to pay attention to how the city spends that money, right? And so you've seen some of my videos, or you may have seen some of my videos that talk about, hey, if you had spent all this okay, well, let me go back a little bit. The city created that TIF in order to pay the I-70 interchange things. But it turns out that they ended up with a lot more money than they needed just to pay for the interchanges. So instead of letting the TIF go away, like is one option that you have once you've paid for the project, you can create new projects that you can use that TIF money for. All right. And so uh, you'll see I've made a video that said, hey, one of those projects that makes good sense and actually would show up in the law as an infrastructure project would be your water softening project, right? Your water softening project could be totally paid by this TIF. And if they had paid the water softening and the water pressure increase thing on there, your water bill would be $10 less a month than it is now, which would be $120 savings. But other projects that you could use the TIF money for would be traffic congestion on 202, right? So you have a lot more traffic congestion than you need to because the city chose to pay for the music center. All right, so that's what I mean. You have to pay attention to how the city spends the money. You have carriage trails as a residential TIF. It's not like a business TIF. So it has a little bit difference, but they're mostly the same, generally the same. But in that, you really have to examine how the city's spending the money because almost all the money goes out of that TIF in order to pay for the interior roads and streets. And developers usually pay for the interior roads and streets. And so I have a big thing about let's not use that money for that, right? If they want to, if the developer of carriage trails wants to develop a thing, they need to pay for the things developers pay for, right? They don't need to be using TIF money to pay for interior roads and streets. And we did not talk about CRAs or NCAs, right? So if you think that I might become a mayor like there, you can ask me to make videos and explain how those work. But I really wasn't planning on making this video for this campaign, but it just occurred to me that I would. So we've come to the end of episode 12 of Write-In Tom McMasters for Mayor. Please like, comment, and share. Tell your neighbors to do the same because I am a write-in candidate and we basically have no chance at all because I'm not spending any money. I don't take any campaign contributions. I don't give money to politicians, so I don't ask people to give money to me. But I do ask you to like, comment, share the preview or the video, and tell your neighbors because that's the only possible way to get elected. Thank you very much and have a good night.